This is an iceberg. Basically info, but the lower it goes, the more obscure it is. This one is going to be about the MTA, the thing my channel is based around. So here we go. A few of them are going to be fusing together, so this doesn't take any longer. Early reminder though, to look at my Twitter, and if you feel like it, Patreon or Ko-fi. IRT, BMT, IND. This is the IRT, the first subway system in New York City. It is the sole ancestor to the A Division. This is the BMT and IND, the second and third original subway companies. The BMT and IND exist today as a B Division. If you want to know more about those three, then look it up, I'm not telling you. CPTC. Now for actual info. CPTC stands for Communications-Based Train Control, essentially automatic trains. CPTC is currently in use on the Queens Boulevard, Flushing, Canarsie, and soon the Culver lines. Every line is subject to receiving CPTC. The subway cars with CPTC enabled are the R188, R143, and R160. Other NTTs are subject to receiving CPTC. MetroCard. MetroCards are the soon-to-be, not-so-current fare system. They are fun as hell to swipe. They were introduced in the 90s. They are subject to be replaced by Omni. Open and closed brackets. Diamonds are used for express variants of existing lines. They are on the 6, 7, and F trains. Back then, diamonds were used to indicate general rush hour services, like the Q on Bryan Express, A to Rockaway Park, 5 to Nereid Avenue, you get the idea. R211. This is the R211. They are made by Kawasaki and currently in testing. They are subject to start service in the next year. They will replace the R46, sadly, and the Silent Island Railway R44s. Airtrain JFK. The Airtrain JFK is an airtrain based out of JFK Airport. Who would have thunk? It has subway connections at Sutphin Boulevard and Howard Beach. It's for easier access to the airport. Who would have thunk? R179 Lemon. When the R179s first went into service, they had some problems, including decoupling while still in a tunnel, major door problems, requiring the R42s to be replaced to come back while they were being fixed. The issues the R179s had were fixed and ironed out, but some people, particularly kids, still call them lemons because they still think it's funny. It's not. MNRR to Penn Station. There is a project in the works to let the Metro North Railroad have access to Penn Station. It is to complement the East Side Access Project with the LIRR, Staten Island Railway. This is the Staten Island Railway, or just SIR, sir, what do we want to call it? It is a railway on Staten Island, who would have thunk? The railway uses exclusively R44s. Speaking of which, this is the R44. They run on the Staten Island Railway, like mentioned, but they also ran the subway back then. But because of the metal they used being kind of unsafe after decades of use, they were retired early and replaced by R160s in 2010. The last R44 ran on the A and C. One subway R44 is preserved and currently displayed in the Transit Museum. 24-hour service. The subway runs 24 hours a day. However, on late nights, some lines are either shortened, switched to local, or just cut entirely. During the big hit of the pandemic, the subway was fully closed on late nights. R32. The R32 was a subway car built by Bud. They were the oldest running subway car, running for 58 years. They retired this year and had retirement runs during the final months. I never got to ride on the runs. East Side Access. The East Side Access Project is a project that's meant to give the Long Island Railroad access to Grand Central at the east side of Manhattan. Who would have thought? 2nd Avenue Subway. The 2nd Avenue Subway is a subway extension that's meant to bring more service to the east side of Manhattan, extending the Q train to 125th Street and introducing the T train again, running to Hanover Square. The first phase was finished in around 2017. It is still on the first phase. Tokens. Tokens were the original way to pay the fare. In the 90s, they were replaced by MetroCards. 125th Street. 125th Street is a station on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue line. It is served by the 1 train. It sits on the Manhattan Valley Viaduct. It is one of the few elevated stations in Manhattan. R1. The R1 was the first member of the R9 fleet of subway cars, as well as being the very first R-type car in New York City. It ran on the B division. They were built by the American Car Foundry in 1930 and retired in 1968. There are 4 cars preserved today. Trunk lines. Trunk lines are essentially a more important version of a regular line. Think 8th Avenue, Broadway, Flushing, that type of shit. 7 subway extensions. This means 2 different things, so I'll explain both. The 7 train was extended to 34th Street, Hudson Yards in 2015 to coincide with CBTC. There are other plans to extend the 7 to New fucking Jersey, which you can tell will never happen anytime soon. And also a little extra bonus, the second system also proposed extending the 7 more higher up into Queens. Would have been pretty cool. Graffiti. Vandalism. Let's talk about that. In the 1970s, the MTA was struck with cars getting graffiti on the left, right, and center. This is mostly not the case anymore, but the graffiti does exist elsewhere. Like tunnels. How do they even get in there? In a little update, a M9 on the LRRR and the test set for the R211 got graffitied on September and October of 2022.
Vandalizing TA property is illegal.
Holiday train. Sometimes a holiday train, usually comprised of R9s and other type cars, will run on the weekends of December and November near Thanksgiving and Christmas. In 2021, the R32s mentioned before were the supplement to that. These trains run from 125th Street on Central Park West to 2nd Avenue on the F. City Hall Station. City Hall is a station on the Broadway line served by the R and W trains and the N train during late nights. Okay, but actually, City Hall is an abandoned station on the Lexington Avenue line. The station is placed on a balloon curve. It is currently used by 6 trains that go on the northbound platform of Brooklyn Bridge. If you want to see the station, then just take a 6 train when it's going over the curve. Don't trespass. Nine. The 9 train was a skip-stop version of the 1 train that ran rush hours only. Think of the Z train, but it got the fate it deserved. Back then, it was the Dyer Avenue shuttle. It got retired in 2005 because of low ridership. Redbirds. Oh yeah. Redbirds are a fleet of cars comprising of the R26, R28, R29, R33, and R36 on the IRT, with R27s and R30s on the B division. These are some of the most iconic subway cars in the system due to their unique red color scheme during their later years, hence their name, and the abundance of color schemes in their early years, including green, white, graffiti, red by lighter, white with blue stripes, blue, etc. IND Court Street. Court Street was a station on the IND Fulton Street line, located west of the Hoyt and Schermerhorn Street station. It was served by the Double H shuttle train from 1936 to 1946. It is currently the site of the New York City Transit Museum. I went there in November last year. R40. The R40s were 2 subway cars built by the St. Louis Car Company in 1967 and 1969. The first of them were the R40 slants, which were made to look cooler with their slanted ends, and the R40As, or as people usually call them, the R40 mods, were R40 slants but with a regular straight end, to be more conventional. They were retired in 2009 and replaced by R160s. 2 R40 slants and 4 R40 mods are currently preserved. 3rd Avenue Line. The 3rd Avenue Line, or 3rd Avenue Elevated, was the elevated line owned by the IRT and previously the New York Elevated Railway. It originally ran from Gun Hill Road in the Bronx to South Ferry or City Hall in Manhattan. The Manhattan part of the L in the south of 149th Street was closed in 1955, making the L Bronx only, running to 149th Street Grand Concourse. The rest of the line was closed in 1973. South Ferry Loop. South Ferry is a terminal station on the Broadway 7th Avenue line, served with 1 train at all times. While the station right now is just a standard design, Back then it used to be a single-tracked loop, and back then it was a two-track loop, with the inner loop served by the Lexington Avenue line using the Bowling Green to South Ferry shuttle. The inner loop would close in 1977. Terminating 5 trains still used the inner loop to turn around. The outer loop would close in 2009 and replaced by the new South Ferry station. However, the loop will come back in 2013 because of the Hurricane Sandy flooding the new station. The outer loop would close for good in 2017 when the new station was fixed. Extra fun fact, back then, when the outer loop was still open, the conductor was only able to open the first 5 cars of the train because the platform was too short and it couldn't really be extended. And the inner loop was only able to fit the center door of every single car because, sharp curve wouldn't really be able to fit side doors without any more platform extenders. So I kind of see why they were closed. Manhattan Bridge Shutdown. Basically, from 1986 to 1988, the north side of the Manhattan Bridge was shut down, which also carried the 6th Avenue tracks, so the B&D trains were kind of stunted. So, for convenience, the B&D were split into 2, orange and yellow. The orange B&D ran from 168th on the B or Norwood to 5th Street on the D to 34th Street. The B train was rush hours only and the D was all times. And the yellow B&D. The yellow B ran from Queensboro Plaza or Astoria Denmark during rush hours to Coney Island via West End. The B train was only a shuttle from Coney Island to 36th Street during late nights. And the yellow D. The yellow D ran from 57th Street, 7th Avenue to Coney Island via Brighton. For Grand Street service, a shuttle ran from 57th Street on 6th Avenue to Grand Street. IRT, 2nd Avenue line. The 2nd Avenue Elevated was an elevator line in Manhattan running from 129th Street to City Hall or South Ferry. The portion north of 57th Street would close on June 11th, 1940, with the rest of the line closing on June 13th, 1942. 1918 Montague Street crash. There is no MTA crash relating to Montague Street, specifically in 1918. So I'm going to assume this means Melbourne Street wreck. So here's Melbourne Street wreck. You've heard about it already, probably a lot. So here's just a basic rundown of it. A speeding train on the Franklin Avenue shuttle crashed at one of the curves before Prospect Park, killing around 100 people. It is the worst subway crash in the MTA's history. The curve is not in service anymore. Demolished Myrtle Avenue line. The Myrtle Avenue line is a line run by the M train at all times running between Myrtle Avenue Broadway to Metropolitan Avenue Middle Village. However, back then, it was the Myrtle Avenue Elevated and ran more down after Broadway, running to Park Row. This section would stay enough to even be given a bullet, that being the MJ. It would close at around 1969. BMT Standards. The AB Standards, also known as the BMT Standards, were subway cars owned by the BMT, built by the American Car Foundry and Pressed Steel Car Companies. They were the first 67-footers. They would be in service from 1915 to 1969. 5 cars have been preserved. Composite. The composite cars were the first elevated cars for the IRT. They ran from 1904 to 1950. None of the cars were preserved, unfortunately. Sadly, this is the end of the video. And pretty cut short, too. Earlier, this was meant to be 1 through 5 instead of 1 through 3. But 4 and 5 are pretty long, and layer 3 is already taking extremely long to finish. So, yeah, sadly, this is going to be the end of the first part. Don't worry, when we get to part 3, maybe, I'll try to stick to just 3 parts and try to do all 5 of the last layers. But if not, hey, who knows, maybe you'll see a part 4 much later down the line. But thank you for watching. I'll just credit my socials for a bit. If you want to see a lot of the stuff based around art or just me talking, you can look at my Twitter account. And if you just want to see more art, look at my Tumblr account, which I just made. And if you want to pay me and support me for at least just like $3 a month, or for $3 only and that's it, you can look at my Patreon or Ko-fi. And I have a Discord server now. Yeah, I started out in November, very early in November, and I think I'm more confident enough now to have it be public now. So the link for the Discord server is going to be down below in the description. If you want to check it out, go do it. And be sure to not be a dumbass while doing so. But for now, this is Abby from Multi-Topic. You guys have a great night, and thank you for watching.